A very good morning and warm welcome to each and everyone present here today at the Media Summit, the 9th KCC International Media Conference, and the theme for which is Media, Content, Technology and Business. I am Anjali and warm welcome to each and everyone present here today at the Media Summit, the 9th KCC International Media Conference, and we got a warm welcome too. And I, Fatima Bhindarwala, will be your host for today. Dr. Manjula Srinivas is the head of the Department of Mass Media, KC College, HSMC University, Mumbai, wherein she is in charge of 5 programs, 3 undergraduate and 2 postgraduate. She has been associated with KC College since 2001. She has been conferred with a PhD in Media Economics from the University of Mumbai. With 22 years of experience in the field of media education, she has played a significant role in putting the college and department on the national and international educational map. In the past 14 years, under Manjula ma'am's guidance, KC College has been featured in the list of top 15 in India for media education in magazines like India Today and The Week. Dr. Manjula Srinivas has worked at several senior academic positions at Mumbai University and HSMC University. She has been the keynote speaker at European Distance and E-Learning Network 2017, the annual conference held at Jönköping, Sweden, and Genre and Media Landscape in Virtual Physical Gaming Space, Sweden. She is the recipient of several accolades and awards. She has been the organizer and convener of 8 international conferences. She has been the editor of ISSN Journal for 8 editions and 8 ISBN books. We now request Manjula ma'am to say a few words.
Once again, good morning to each one of you present here, my lovely audience. But most importantly, Honorable Vice Chancellor and the Principal of KC College, who is my mentor, who has been my guide, who has been my colleague, and has also always been telling me, get yourself introduced. So I was squirming in my seat when she was introducing me. But I think, yeah, I'm learning how to brand myself. So thank you, ma'am, for that. Jaya Bardosh from UK, which is from Edinburgh University, Scotland. Edinburgh, Napier. Okay. Thank you so much for that correction there. She's been a good friend. She's been coming to a conference offline, online. She's been always there for us whenever you ask her to help us with certain sessions, certain counseling required for our students, our teachers. Thank you, Jaya, for being here. I've been very overwhelmed by the kind of response that the conference has got. We have over 35 abstracts from different universities. We have wonderful invited speakers, a great panel, which is going to be there tomorrow. So we are looking forward to a very interesting 2 days of deliberation, keeping in mind that we already had a very lovely pre-conference session and of course talking frames on Saturday. We're looking forward to all our sessions which are going to happen in the next 2 days. My team and myself are very thankful to all of you for being a great help to the department by helping us with so many activities that we are planning to do even for the next 2 days. There is something which I thought I must add here to a word called as brave. I have been given this from my family, from my colleagues, from my seniors, and I just wanted you all to think about this word brave as you are sitting today in the next 2 days. Which is brave means also being a little scared. Brave also means not being overconfident. Brave also means being responsible. Brave also means redefine yourself. Put your weaknesses in front. None of you here would ever believe that I had stage fear. I used to tremble in my knees to talk. I became brave. I started doing what I was not very comfortable with. So, brave has its own definition, its own connotation, its own synonyms. It is up to you how you redefine yourself. It is very easy to sit out there and say, oh, this did not happen, that did not happen. Believe me, we all are trying to be brave in the COVID situation, in the kind of personal issues that we are facing, all of us. We have been brave about praying every day and telling ourselves and praying to the Almighty that give us another beautiful day and give us the courage and make us brave to face that with a smile on our face. So here we are with another conference, the 9th Media Summit. A big round of applause for my entire team, my students, my participants, my user studies, and last but not the least, our dear principal ma'am and Dr. Jay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And here's to hoping we can all be brave in our own ways. Before we start with the inaugural session, what's a conference without tech? Before we start with the inaugural session, we present to you a short glimpse of what this year's conference is all about.
I need to turn the video.
स्लोली कर जल्दबाजी मत कर गिरेगा यार आराम से कर
Turn off the lights.
लाइट्स बंद करना कर ले अंदर एक को बिठा देना सिक्योर से तो
We're already on the screen. ठीक है? Ready?
इसको मिनिमाइज कर YouTube पे चल गया YouTube पे अनम्यूट किया ना Zoom पे अनम्यूट
Ready?
Two years ago, our world stopped. Everything we thought and believed changed. But what was more surprising was the fact how much we grew through it all and how big a part technology played in it. The power it granted to businesses is just the beginning to what the world is about to witness. Everything starts with networking and communication. Businesses, markets, education, healthcare. Through technology came global networking, which enhanced globalization in businesses. And with so much exposure, our perspective towards consuming content has also widely shifted. We have moved on from the age of information to the age of content and quality over quantity. This content shapes our world, be it to entertain us or to educate us. So welcome to KC College's 9th International Media Summit. Here we will talk about technology, business, content, and how it all ties into the fabric of media. And as a precursor to what you are about to witness, we might as well sell this video as an NFT.
After that applause, I'm sure we're going to be able to sell this as an NFT. An integral part, thank you. An integral part of the conference inauguration is to have the overview of this year's conference by our co-convener, Ms. Surya Gune. She is an assistant professor at the Department of Mass Media, KC College, for the past 4 years. She did her engineering from College of Engineering, Pune, completed her master's in journalism and mass communication from Savitribai Phule University, Pune. She has had the opportunity to work in engineering, corporate space, and later in the media industry for 6 years in both advertising and journalism. She then decided to move on to academics and join KC College. She conducts courses in both undergraduate and postgraduate programs. Ma'am, would you please come to the stage?
Thank you so much, Fatima, for that introduction. Yeah. When we decide to have a conference, we usually have a deliberation in the department about the theme of every year of the conference. This year, because as you saw in the theme video, for the past 2 years, the kind of transformations that we are going through, the kind of new ideas that are being discussed in the world, we in the department decided to do something around it, but we did not want to limit it only to the field of media. So we decided to widen our range, make the conference interdisciplinary, and invite researchers from across all the fields to present their research. So the theme of this year's conference became Media, Content, Technology, and Business. What started as only as entertainment and information medium has now become a medium of creating awareness, has now become a medium to network, has now become a medium to change the world, start something interactive, to take certain actions to change the world. And therefore, we wanted to discuss content, which is a very, very important part of media. Nothing can happen without the support of technology. The theory of technological determinism has also told us so. So we did not want to lose the aspect of technology as well. Therefore, technology. We have artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and a lot of things very strongly influencing how the content is created. And therefore, the aspect of technology also features in this year's conference. And of course, nothing can happen without the perspective of business. We need to keep in mind that media has taken a shape of business ultimately. So we need to also look at that aspect. And therefore, the theme of this year's conference is Media, Content, Technology, and Business. With these 3 vertices of triangle, we are hoping to discuss various themes like innovative media, need for integrity in innovative media, metaverse, multiverse, music industry, gaming industry, entertainment industry. Every aspect of media spectrum is something that we are looking at. So for the next 2 days, I invite all our students, all our researchers, all our guests to witness the enriching discussions on our theme. And we are hoping to have a very informative and insightful conference. So welcome all of you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Surya ma'am. Thank you so much, Surya ma'am. Keeping the tradition of KC alive, before we officially start the conference, we would like to invoke the blessings of the Almighty. We request the head of the department, Dr. Manjula Srinivas, to kindly escort Principal Ma'am and our chief guest for lighting the lamp. Yes.
On the camera. Bala. Camera. Turn it around. Turn it around.
This hand. Okay. Sudha, come. Sudha, Surya, आ जाओ एक बार. Sudha, मैडम का backstage होगी. आ जाओ. कनिका, सुधा, एक बार. Sudha, so many. Should we talk? Please invite us and we go.
Yes, that sounds best.
That's fine. That's all.
Can I please request everyone to Manjula ma'am, principal ma'am, and our chief guest to come on stage?
Chief guest has a name, Dr. Jaya. Professor Jaya. Oh, sorry.
Ma'am, can I leave you?
I forget it too.
We now take the opportunity to introduce Vice Chancellor of HSNC University and a dear principal, Dr. Hemlata Bagla. She is an accomplished academician and a pioneer educationist in strategizing excellence in institutions of higher learning. As the Vice Chancellor and former Senior Dean, Science and Technology, HSNC University, Mumbai, and the Director of Niranjan Hiranandani School of Real Estate and the Principal of KC College, she is engaged in planning, organizing, and executing innovative state-of-the-art academic and professional courses backed up with her astute administrative experience. She is a noted authority in nuclear and radiochemistry, having guided students at master's and PhD levels for nearly 25 years. Her interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research interests cover the spectrum of chemical, radiochemical, biomedical, and nanotechnology domains. She has obtained her master's in sciences, having specialized in organic chemistry at the age of 20. And she is also taught as a student at the Mumbai University. She has obtained her doctorate in inorganic chemistry, specializing in radiochemistry at 25 years of age. Wow, man. Under her guidance, about 15 students have obtained masters and PhD as well.
Well, it has not ended. Anne has published more than 170 research papers in national and international journals, including 9 publications in NASA's Astrophysical Database System, and has presented papers in national and international conferences and delivered a number of invited talks in various academic forums in colleges, universities, national and international conferences. She has also spoken on a number of platforms as a panelist in order to guide students in their career choices and has contributed career-related articles to the leading newspapers in Mumbai.
Ma'am is currently the sole Indian scientist in the 15-member IAEA international team. Working on the coordinated research project on medical devices. I agree with you. Long live Indian women. Please come and see a few words.
That's what I also said. Please connect yourself. Deliver the message. Thank you.
Fatima and Akansha wrote essay on the scope essay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
The chief guest and keynote speaker of the day, dearest friend, Professor Dr. Jaya. Mr. Maniratnamji, who will be joining online shortly. Dr. Manjula Srinivas, Head Department of Mass Media, KCC College, HSMC University, Mumbai, and University of Mumbai. Dear staff and faculty of KC Media Department, and dear students, a very good morning to all the beautiful, intelligent minds present here today. Do you agree with me? Yes. Friends, technology and social media have brought power back to the people. I must say, I hugely agree with Mark Macnon, the American political advisor and a television producer. He says technology guides our lives and media in all forms has become vital to our sustenance. Our basic needs have become food, clothes, shelter, and media. And I would like to add one more word. And I repeat, you may not quote me, but I now believe that our basic needs have become food, clothes, shelter, media, and technology. 15 years back, I come across the term TMT. Coming from a science background, I probably thought it was a short term of a small or some chemical compound. I was told that the term denotes the convergence of telecom, media, and technology. And lo behold, in 2022, it feels like an epiphany. With the emergence of OTT and all the video and news apps, it is now truly a convergence of telecom, media, and technology. Friends, I'm delighted to welcome all of you to the 9th International Media Summit, and I'm also delighted to be with you today on this summit. I'm certain that this convention, this summit will be a crucial point of convergence for paving avenues towards a newer and better digital age. Keeping media in mind, so with media, which has always served as the pulse of the people, the community, and the nation. The advancements in media indicate the progress that we make and how far we have come in our scientific development, R&D development, social development, and political and cultural development too. I'm glad we, all of us together at HSMC University, are playing host to such an important discursive summit. I'm eagerly looking forward to the wide spectrum of invited talks, wonderful research papers, and discussions and deliberations which are lined up for these 2 days. And those discussions will continue the year long till we meet again in the 10th Media Summit with Dr. Jaya once again with us next year. Friends, we are honored to have with us today here in physical mode, one stalwart of the media industry and the second stalwart will join later. They have worked time and again to establish a new language and a new perspective through their creative work. Put your hands together for Professor Jayalakshmi. Already very known as award-winning filmmaker. She is also an educator and media consultant. As Dr. Manjula Srinivas said, that she's working currently a professor of creative practice in Edinburgh University and has been in the field of academia for nearly 15 years. Right? Yes. Her passion has always remained in the creative process of filmmaking and has received laurels, accolades time and again for her documentaries and short films. Dr. Jaya has been an integral part of KC Media Summit for the past few years as well. And I want to remind her, she promised me KC's film last year. But I give it to Pandemic. So we shall start again. So heartiest welcome, Professor Jaya, for being with us this morning. And all the way on the University. Friends, I will not be around or may hear Mr. Maniratnam online, but I want to acknowledge and put on record that today we have an opportunity, we all have to get an opportunity to be in conversation with this brilliant magician of the film industry, Sri Maniratnam sir, who will join us online a little later, but I'm sure there's not a one person in this room, in this audience, or in a digital room who has not been enchanted by Mani sir's celluloid magic. However, to speak for myself, then I'm excited. I'm actually awaiting the musings. Friends, as an educationist and academician, I feel the pertinence of media in the field of education. If you ask me in the scientific communication, and very soon at HSMC University, we would like to integrate and start scientific communication as one option along with advertising, journalism, and scientific communication. The viewers chairperson sitting out here, so I shall ask her to take forward, because if you talk about the placements, the entire global world, which is a global village now, asking for the students or the professionals who are fabulous in scientific writing. So apart from scientific communication, I believe you young generation have many more opportunities in this field. And today, media is a singular, most important contemporary tool for learning, debating, discussing, engaging, and dissemination of information. And if you are able to amalgamate with technology, and the long list was shared by Surya Gune, and I believe you must have added, apart from metaverse and this, there was blockchain technology. We have it. Yes. So it's just a few decades ago, the new media word, the term became famously known as the fourth state. I remember this very auditorium, we had the fourth pillar of, we had democracy here, and we spoke about the media as the fourth state. Today, that title is true for almost all kinds of media, be it auditory, visual, or social. So the audience of yesterday has gone from being a customer to a participant. and the future generation is working towards becoming the producer as well. So this is very powerful, important tool that can truly be utilized for shaping minds and yes, shaping our futures and the country too. While I'm very new to the world of memes, reels, shorts, and even OTTs, but I'm aware of the tremendous impact they have on the youth of today. So such platforms, if we work using these as the impactful platforms, the only one thing I will leave behind with you is see that we don't work with the negative biases. Such platforms have the capability of being both business ventures as well as social campaigns, and both have their own functions in society. It makes me so content to see so many brilliant minds gathered here for this very purpose. And we work on the purpose is what should be our objective. I'm immensely proud of my colleagues. Yes, Professor Jaya, you were right sitting out there when you said, when such programs culminate, you must be the proudest of all. That's very true. For every program, when I walk to the podium and address my students and be amidst my teachers, and I see every layer being unfolded, I'm the proudest of all. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm immensely proud of all my colleagues, my teachers of Department of Mass Media, and all dear students, the volunteers who are participating here and attending the summit and engaging wholeheartedly with this wonderful change. I hope that through this confluence of creative minds, such as this summit, we are able to merge these two factors and think of more creative, sustainable, and impactful ways of using media, its content, and its technology, and make business out of it. I wish each one of you all the very best, and my congratulations to all who are here, who are participating and presenting research papers, something very near to my heart. And I believe this dream of this university, this college has come true when we are able to transform each individual in a worthwhile and wonderful citizen of India and also global citizen. So all the best to all the organizers, and especially I would like to put on record the tirelessly, the one person who has worked behind the scenes since last month is Dr. Manjula Srinivas and her team. Fabulous congratulations, Dr. Manjula Srinivas, for yet another successful event. Lastly, she mentioned the word brave, to be brave. And this is one example who's here. And you should learn from the life of Dr. Manjula Srinivas. If you want to interview anyone, you must interview her, and you will see the layers of different forms coming out. And you will also emerge out to be a wonderful human being. So be just a wonderful human being. Everything will follow. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your inspiring words. Then I now request our principal, Dr. Hemlata Vada, to felicitate our chief guest, Professor Jaya. Yeah, I'm sorry, my time at work. Thank you, ma'am. I request Dr. Manjula Srinivas ma'am to now facilitate our principal ma'am.
How is it? You are a yes.
I can do whatever students.
And then I know what to do. You have to do.
Thank you so much, Principal Ma'am, Manjula Ma'am, and Jaya Ma'am. We now continue with the proceedings and take up this opportunity to introduce our chief guest for today. Our chief guest and our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Professor Jaya. She is an award-winning, experienced filmmaker, educator, and international film and media consultant whose career has spanned a wide range of program making skills in film, television, and digital media. Currently, she is Professor of Creative Practice at Edinburgh Napier University. Having worked for the BBC for 11 years, she set up her own production company, which she headed as creative director for 7 years. In this period, she made both documentary films and fiction projects across continents, except for Antarctica. Professor Jaya trained as an EABE producer and is a full voting member of BAFTA. Professor Jaya has won awards at several international festivals for her films. She has trained people in the industry, nationally in the UK and internationally for the Commonwealth Broadcasting Association and for the Bill and Melinda Gates Partnership. She has been an invited guest at major festivals like Cannes and Locarno. In 2007, Professor Jaya decided to move into higher education, becoming a senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy in 2015. Having held several management positions both in the UK and abroad, Professor Jaya now enjoys being a hands-on practice come research professional, teaching and developing students to be creative professionals ready for the industry. Professor Jaya is an ideal combination of an industry and academia professional. Please put your hands together to welcome ma'am.
Before Dr. Jaya comes in, it is now time for us to release the much-awaited Media Studies and Research in Communication Journal. We request Surya ma'am, Kanika ma'am, and the research team to come up on stage for the release.
Yes. Research team volunteers. Coming. पीछे जाएंगे
Somebody from Cgi DMS.
to get right, right? Students,
Kudos to the research team.
This time we have another book, Undergraduate Research in Mass Media. We request the undergraduate students to kindly come up on the stage.
Guys, for releasing books, I think we can do a round of applause.
What a beautiful way to release these two books with our Honorable Vice Chancellor and my dear friend, dear Dr. Professor Jaya on stage. And of course, my whole team. Thank you so much.
Yes, all set?
Yes, ma'am.
Come sit here. That's the best place.
Yes,
Sit down. Yeah, actually, yes.
Thank you.
Guys, round of applause.
Was inside.
Hospitality. He was there only, you know. As you set the place for man, you can remove the table. Yeah, I know the table and the chest. Yeah, I shall meet you for lunch. Guys, while they're sorting all this out. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye. Bala, let's pick it up. Rishabh, the mic's out. Shifa. Sir.
Can you please speak the
Yeah.
Professor Jana, over to you.
Right, while they're going to take this table out, and I'll get out of the way. The reason for the table to be taken away is because I want to show you a film. One that I have just finished in China. I've been in China for 4 years. And if you've never been to China, you should go to China. It's the most advanced country in the world. And it's the most happening place in the world. Don't believe media hype. It's amazing.
पोस्ट करना आवाज ही नहीं आती
And you, all of you who are Mera Bharat Mahan, start thinking, if you want to meet it, you got to beat China. Anybody who wants to meet Mera Mahan, Mera Bharat Mahan, Mera UK Mahan, has to beat China. I can tell you this. Right. The table is off.
Thank you.
I can start my talk. This talk is going to be a bit strange.
Came right at the point.
I'm absolutely not sure of what I'm saying. If you work in cutting edge, you actually don't know what you're saying.
Sharad,
So
Change the mic.
Change the mic.
Change the mic.
I'm going to try, and I'm going to try my damnedest hard. I'm going to try my very best. But it doesn't mean that I have answers. It doesn't mean that I know. It means I'm searching. And I want to offer this paper in the spirit of reality, in the spirit of trying to understand our world, our universe. So,
Yeah. Made in India, made in India.
made in India always works, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good technology. Right. I'll just start my paper, and I'd rather sit down if you don't mind, partly because I was going down to the circus after a research meeting. Now, this is part of the world we live in. So this woman I was meeting, I was talking to her about metaverse, because we're setting up a metaverse institute. And doesn't work, does it?
Ma'am, it's working. There's just some echo.
Right, nothing wrong with the voice, right? Okay, so this woman was coming from, she's Chinese, her name is Marina Guo, and she lives in Vancouver, and she was visiting the UK, and it was the only day I could see her. It was a Sunday, and I went down to London, we had a great lunch, we talked about setting up this institute of metaverse. I was going out to the Sadness, the tube station, and I fell backwards. I had a computer on my back and it protected my back. My foot got caught between two railings and it twisted. So I had a piece of pain. So I'm going to sit down and do my talk online. There will be time for questions. I will try and make time for questions. I'm starting to tackle around. The other thing, of course, is for those of you who have a dissertation to submit later on. I think either today or tomorrow at some point, I'm doing a very basic talk on dissertations. Not at all like this. It's, meat and potatoes, as they say in the UK, biryani types. Then you have to play chawal dal types, which you have to know. You have to know chawal dal before you can do anything else, right? So that's a talk I'm going to do for you guys. Just as you don't have to attend if you don't want to. This one is compulsory. Right.
You need a PPT, right?
Sorry?
First, you need the PPT.
No. I want to start with my presentation. The video comes in. A little bit in.
This one?
Yes.
Let me just.
Yes, of course. It'll be great to put the lights off. That's exactly what I'd like. Yep.
I'm going to share screen before you take over.
I know, because you've got people online now. Guys, we're just sharing screen with people online.
You have the mic now.
Hey, can you hear me at the back?
Yes.
Great. Okay. I'll just shout.
This mic is ready.
It's working? Hello.
Yeah.
Right.
Ready.
Okay. Let's go. Ready? Can I do this?
Yes.
Right. So my talk is called, how do I get rid of this?
1 second.
Yeah. Okay. My talk is called A Methodological Approach to Media Content, Technology and Business. Since that is the topic for the next 3 days. And what I'm hoping to do is to be very wide-ranging so that it sets the tone for the papers that will follow. Okay? Here we go. I made a film in China. It was about a paper museum called Longchamp Paper Museum. We talked about interdisciplinarity. This was an interdisciplinary film made with a guy who teaches architecture. And this is an architectural film. I'm very interested in architecture because film takes 3 dimensions and turns them into 2 dimensions. The world we experience is 3-dimensional. When I see Surya or Sudha or
or Manjula sitting in front of me, at the same time, I also see everybody else who's behind them, right? Similarly, when you see me, you see the wall behind me, you see the curtain. We've got 150-degree vision, so we see a lot more, right? But a screen is only two-dimensional. It only has length and breadth. There is no depth in the screen. So when you're making a film, what you're trying to do is take a three-dimensional world and turn it into two. Architecture works the other way around. Architects have drawings, they do two-dimensional drawings, and they convert those two dimensions into three dimensions. So their process is, in some senses, the opposite of my process, And what is interesting about it is when I make a film, a good film, a bad film, a great film, an indifferent film, it doesn't matter. I don't kill people. An architect makes a bad building, it can kill people. Who's lucky? I'm lucky. Okay, let's go. So this is the map of China, and I lived here near Shanghai in Jiangsu province. And I made a film in this province over here called Yunnan province, here, okay? This is Yunnan province, and it borders, as you can see, Myanmar. And I made a film, this is Tengchong, and the place I was making the film was here, just on the borders of Myanmar. So borderlands, especially in a country like China and Myanmar, I think the day after we finished shooting, we just left Kunming and there was the coup in Myanmar, So production ethnography is actually very interesting as something to think about. But what I'd first like to do is show you the film that I made. It's not a very long film. Bear with me. It's only 10 minutes long. If you're bored, go away, have a smoke and come back. No smoking. Have a drink and come back. Okay. How do I screen the film? Who's here to help me screen the film? Because you have to, now for the film, yeah? I think you'll have to stop this share and start another share, won't you?
Yeah.
It's
not embedded in the PPT?
No.
It's not.
No. The film is separate. It's the 264. This one, yeah. We'll see. Can do it?
Yeah.
Right.
How long is the film?
10 minutes. Okay.
I think you have to share this. It's
Yeah,
not
you have to share it. Yeah, you have to share it. That's why I stopped sharing there.
Here it is.
Good. Now you put the volume up first. Now. And let's start from the beginning. And start the film from the beginning. Great. Can we kill the lights, please?
Put them down. Off. अरे बंद कर.
Kill.
बंद नहीं kill means बंद कर दे light बंद कर दे. India.
Thank you.
Okay, Jay, good to go. Can play it.
Great.
Set.
Let's try this now, guys. Here we go.
"在中国农村，每个农民都会有2个职业，一个职业呢是作为一个农民，然后种植稻米啊、庄稼呀，然后另外他们在不忙的时候，他们都会有一个手工业。每个农上寨上一代的人都是从小开始造纸，因为他们整个农上寨以前的第2产业就是造纸，所以他们家家户户都造纸。 大概是从明代的中晚期开始。这种造纸一直是他们家庭生活的另外一种补充，实际上它并不是作为一个文化的一个系统存在的。
China. Paper actually. Yeah, before it started actually.
农上造纸实际上他们那个支就是农信这一支是到了农上寨之后，这一支呢实际上是把传统的湖南的汉族造纸的这套技术带到了云南。农占先是农上寨的农信其中一任族长，他是因为是本地人，并且是本地的比较相对来说是应该是本地最有文化的人，所以他很了解那个造纸的历史，并且他是经历了整个的纸的这种兴衰，所以他最早在村落我们跟他合作，从博物馆的建设到后来纸业的改造。詹先是19年上半年去世的，他其实是有理想的。
在建立那些家的时候嘛，我看那竹盘，书籍放在我的那竹盘嘛，火装起锈盖起头上了，我才回家来了。而且我种菜煮饭，多少人主持了，我都搞那我。
在这个有400年造纸的历史村落呢，想做这么一个博物馆，初衷就是想通过这个博物馆来保护和推动这个手工造纸传承的发展。然后我觉得是一个非常有趣的一个项目。这个项目设计成几个微缩的这样的小体量，应该说是这个灵感来自于村落本身。所以这个建筑呢，就像是一个微缩版的一个村落，然后集聚在这个场地里面。其实这样做的目的就是，我希望能够给观众提示出一种认识，就是这个博物馆和环境和这个村落，然后造纸和这个环境跟这个地方密切的一种关系。我们在做这个项目的时候，就一开始就希望尽量用一种跟当地有密切关系的方式来做。那么这个包括了我们想和当地的工匠合作，然后运用一种当地传统的这个木结构的建造技术来盖这个房子。另外也希望尽量的用当地的材料。
这个是榫板，就是试一下这个燕尾榫它的大小能管用不管用。我们建造房的时候是要用那个锤子给它打下去，然后它把它固定起来，就是防震，把这个主体结构把它拉连接起来，不用钉子，就用这个木材自然的给它相连，它的结构就是这样的。这个木材就从那个山，用人工搬运，加车辆运到这个木材加工厂，然后通过加工，不同需要的木材都在这个地方加工。就我们北京来建造那个新庄博物馆的木材，就从这个加工厂里边，搬运到那个场地去的，就是这样的木材。你看，用那个废弃木都没有人把它给废弃了，都要加工了以后利用它。
木头，然后竹子、火山石，还有当地人造的纸，那这些都是当地非常普遍的材料，所以用这样一些材料做出来这个建筑，它具有很强的这种在地性。在中国的乡村，传统工匠有他们自己的一套方法来盖房子，所以他们不会阅读我们画的这种所谓的施工图，就是我们在这个城市的这个体系里面所习惯的这种方式。
北京过来的图纸，首先我们也看不懂，因为我们文化水平太低了，也看不懂。他们来的那个图纸有好多是我们没法看的，因为不是我们的专业，我们也不知道怎么看。
我们在这个过程当中发现，最好的跟工匠交流的办法就是通过模型，因为模型是三维的，它很直观，就很容易就理解这个房子的形态以及我们想要做的一种建造的这种方式，所以这个过程是非常有趣的。我们的设计团队带着模型和电脑到了村子里面，然后跟工匠坐在一起，然后给他们看这个效果图，看一些图纸，然后通过模型来传递我们的设计想法。然后龙占文他看了模型以后，他再用那个纸壳子的那个纸板，再把这个结构的这个样式把它用单线画出来，然后这样他就完全理解了这个房子的形态geometry 这些东西。过程当中实际上也是跟工匠在探讨怎么样做最合理，所以最后的结果呢，实际上也有工匠的一些这个建议在里面，所以它是一个互动的这样一个过程而不是一个完全都是先入为主的这样一个过程。
建这个博物馆，我们也本着一种打破传统观念来做这样的工程。做起来以后，反正我们做起来还是很开心的，在这里享受到了各种不同的这些，也接触到了一些传统没有看到的，心里边是愉快的，虽然干活累了点心里边还是很愉快的。
因为他们是造纸博物馆，所以我们就想，为什么不用纸来做这个室内的这个墙面的材料呢？而且我觉得用纸做室内，它和木头还有石头这些自然材料是非常的相得益彰的。在造纸博物馆，我们在墙的下面用了火山石的一个做的一个细节，就是用一些条石，然后砌筑出一些镂空的可以通风的一个细部构造。这个是因为云南的气候温和，一年四季都非常舒服的一个温度， 所以它并不需要做保温，也不需要做暖封闭。这样一个构造方式呢，解决了通风的问题，既用到了这个当地的这种材料，但是又通过这样一种构造来回应当地的这个气候，来实现建筑想要的一种效果和体验。
我在家造纸，有的客人很多的来家里，他们还来自己做体验嘛，来自己来学做体验的也有。都是博物馆他们那边他们吸引过来的客人嘛，来一家一家的来参观，有些还来家里来看着，叫我们教他们做体验。一个步骤一个步骤的来学嘛，有些学的也可以，有些学的不可以啊。
什么都还挂在这边。博物馆有5个功能，就是第一个就是教育啊，我们会在这边给孩子做一些教育工作，就是开始做坊。因为我平时造纸的话，就是我也是从家里面长辈那边学过来的，我怎么学过来的，我就怎么教他们做。拿不动是吧？虽然厚了一点了，但是还是有样子了。然后第二个就是参观，游客可以过来参观。然后这就是我们这边有那个图书馆，小孩子啊、村民都可以过来看书。然后我们3楼有一个住宿的地方，然后一般有那个艺术家可以常住。然后它就是一个公共空间啊，村民啊什么都可以过来进来休息。
我是这里的常驻艺术家，我希望在这里做长期的一个观察和研究。在记录这个村庄的变化的时候，同样就是能够观察到周边村落的一个变迁。
我觉得手工纸对于造纸的村民来说，其实就2件事，一个是赚钱，第二个就是获得认可。那么当艺术家、当不同的人、游客、喜欢文艺的人去了那个村庄参观他们，然后去购买他们的纸，去使用他们的纸的时候，他们认为他们的劳动被认可，不只是赚钱，所以他们愿意把这件事情可以通过这个方式持续下去。所以我觉得这个是博物馆在10年里面带给他们最重要的东西。
就博物馆建好之后，就博物馆带动村民把那个纸的质量慢慢提高了，然后会做一些书画纸啊，然后会开发一些那个纸的产品啊，我觉得对于我们村民还是帮助挺大的。这2张30块钱。好的。
We have the lights on now. Stop sharing and then go back to my presentation, please. Right, that was the film. Can we continue? Yeah. Now, what I'd like to do, okay. Is this on or off? Hi. What I'd like to do is analyze that film in terms of content, technology, and business. Now, there's a notion of cultural capital. Cultural capital, there are 3 kinds of capital, Bourdieu argues. Bourdieu argues that you all know economic capital, right? It's the capital that's used in business, in everyday life, all right? Then there's social capital and cultural capital. Now, there's a guy called Bourdieu, and he develops this notion in 1973 and then in 1977. He talks about it as it is the social assets that a person has, the education, the intellect, the style of speech, your style of dress, all that you do gives you social capital. Okay, gives you cultural capital. Cultural capital. It gives you cultural capital, by which I mean, what is it that makes you different from a villager? The fact that you live in a city. Already, the cosmopolitanism of a city gives you a certain kind of cultural capital. But what is it that makes you different from the person who's walking down the street who is begging? Okay? Education. Bourdieu is very much arguing from an educational standpoint, and even within education, if you look at it, people who have PhDs have higher status than people who have only a master's, than people who just have a simple degree, right? Unless you work in the media field, in which case, certainly in the West, you don't want to confess to having a PhD. When I worked at the BBC, I never told them I had a PhD. I did. No one would take me seriously. Okay, so Bourdieu's notion of cultural capital, if you think about that, what's happening in this village is that the village develops its cultural capital through the Longchamp Paper Museum. The museum is at the entrance of the village. It invites the tourist, the visitor in. And there are two things that happen in the village, right? One is agriculture and the other is paper making. And the museum being at the entrance, and the fact that you can stand there and see these vistas, see the agricultural, rural nature of the place, but at the same time, it celebrates the paper. It gives the villagers cultural capital. Now, cultural capital leads to social capital, i.e., those villagers who make paper, who are engaged with the village, who engage with the world outside. Because remember, I showed you how remote Yunnan is, who engage with the world outside, and therefore are international, have higher social capital than those who do not, right? So then the implication is that the cultural capital and the social capital work together to bring in tourists, which increases economic capital. Okay? So that's what's happening with something like this. So the implications of creating, and this has implications of creating projects rather than individual programs. So the film is only one part of that project. It won, the building was shortlisted for the Aga Khan Awards. Now the Aga Khan Awards are architecture's equivalent. The Pritzker and the Aga Khan are the architecture's equivalent of the Nobel Prize. Now the building was shortlisted for the Aga Khan Award. So you have enterprise in social enterprise in the paper making. You have the museum, so you have museology. You have the internationalization through recognition of architecture, and you have the film. So you no longer are creating a single program. Rather, and this is something that all you guys who are going to enter the media world need to think about, it is no longer about making a program or a television serial. It is about creating projects that make meaning. And the projects work across industrial design, product design, architecture, film, name it. You have to work across all these things to create cultural capital, which will give you economic capital. Okay? So this is in one sense convergence of many different fields of enterprise, but not in the way that we use the term in media. And we'll come to the use of the term in media. Rather, it is the use of many different modes of art to present one cohesive picture. Yeah? So if you think of the business case, it is money-making convergence campaigns is what you need to be thinking about, you know, as students of journalism, of advertising, of PR, of marketing, distribution, I don't know, product design, it doesn't matter what, but it is no longer one thing you're creating, no longer. You're creating something much larger, and you must be very aware of, Marx would say, of the conditions of enterprise of creation, right? Marx would call it conditions of production, for those of you who know Marx. Okay, now that was one project. Now I want to talk to you about a project I'm working on at the moment. And this, by the way, is confidential information. So please don't talk about this outside this room. It's called John and Mary and John and Mary and John and Mary and John and Mary. Okay. It's based, there was an Oxford philosopher called Derek Parfit. He's died very recently. He wrote a book called Reasons and Persons in 1984. And he was very interested in identity. And he took examples from the future to discuss notions of identity. So I took one story from Reasons and Persons, and I wrote it as a script. And very luckily for me, before he died, I got permission from him to use it. And it was called Reasons, and it's called John and Mary and John and Mary. Now the story is about John and Mary. They're a couple. They live on Earth, but Mary works on Mars. And Mary travels to Mars through an information-based teleportation machine, an IBT. So she enters the IBT, and every single cell of hers is broken down, and every single cell is reconstituted on Mars. Okay? Problem is, I'm making a film. And I'm making a film in the 21st century. How do you achieve IBT in the confines of a film? See, it's not ethnographic. Those of you who are going to be doing research methods need to think about ethnography and production ethnography. Okay, so.
I'll just stop sharing because the stream is done. I'll just stop sharing.
Okay, sure. Hang on. We're going to stop sharing, guys. Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Okay. So my problem as a content creator is, how am I going to achieve IBT in the confines of a film? And how am I going to show the difference if what happens is all your cells break down and then they're all reconstituted on Mars, and you have the same memory, the same kiss bite, you have the same everything, you know? Who's the real you? You're broken down every day, right? And this is what this film deals with. It deals with questions of identity. But for me, you see, I mean, those of you who do film studies will talk about mise en scène. I hate that word. It has no meaning for me. As a filmmaker, every scene is mise en scène. If you don't concentrate on what that damn thing is going to look like, you're finished, you're dead. You know, my word is production design. And production design is desperately important in a film. Okay, but this is apologies to all your film studies people. I get why you do it, but as a filmmaker, I don't get it. Okay, I get it as an academic. Right, how to achieve IBT in the confines of a film is a problem for me. Whoa, what's happened, man? It's frozen. Oh, okay, right. All right. So how am I going to do this? This is where technology comes in, right? I'm working with a guy in Adelaide. I live in Edinburgh. Not yet, but I will. I live in Wales, but commute to Edinburgh. Our plan is to involve CGI, computer-generated imagery, projection mapping. Do you guys know projection mapping?
Yes.
Right, okay. CGI, projection mapping, mocap. You know mocap? Yeah. How many of you don't know these terms? Just raise your hands. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'll do you a very quick run through of all this. Okay, CGI is computer-generated images, which all of you must be using in some form or the other. Okay, essentially, what we are going to do is have a green screen and put a color separation overlay. A CSO is a color separation overlay. Now, if you have a green screen and you wear green clothes, you make a hole. But if you have a green screen and you wear clothes that are not green, then that green screen can be replaced by any image that you want. So, for example, newscasters, when you see them sitting there with the Statue of Liberty behind them, it's not because it's out there on the sea in front of the Statue of Liberty. No, it's because they're sitting behind a green screen and the green screen has the Statue of Liberty on it. Okay, that's called CGI. Well, that's one of the functions of CGI. Okay, and then projection mapping. Now, if you look at this, this is Sydney Opera House, and on this opera house are these images mapped on it. It's very hard. You see, we all know how to map an image onto 4:3 or 10:8, what's it? 16:9, not 10:8. I meant 16:9. We all know how to do that. But how do you do it in this kind of cutout fashion? That's what projection mapping is, guys, in a very simple way of understanding it, okay? And what we are going to have is this IBT, which, because I lived in China and I was writing this and thinking about it in China, it's going to look like a Chinese cup. Okay, so if you have this cup, forget this bit. Chinese cups don't have this bit, okay? If you have a cup and you have the person climbing the IBT on the outside and then steps inside and they go in and there's a seat and they sit on that seat, and instead of a door opening and closing, you have this thing that opens and closes like that. Can you imagine the kind of claustrophobia it will create? It creates a highly claustrophobic environment. And John is scared of getting into the IBT. So I wanted to create something that would be, I want to create something that will be very claustrophobic. And it also, because the characters will be mo-capped, what will mean is that motion capture, where you can put these buttons on people and you can capture the motion that they're going to have, so you can work with the CGI backgrounds, okay? So, and it will therefore be a relationship between the virtual worlds behind and the real world of actors entering an IBT and disappearing, right? Okay, so this combines, so what I'm trying to do is combine this world with the real world of IBT transporter and real actors, this unreal world. And what will we do to do that? It's a game engine called Unreal Engine 4. But Unreal Engine 5 has been released day before yesterday or something. We might work on Unreal Engine 5. In any case, this guy, Jason Bevan, who's my research partner on this, works on Unreal Engine 4 to bring the two worlds together. Now, this is really the, yes, darling?
He has a question.
Yeah, go. Ask. Come up here. I've got 62-year-old years. Yeah, just ask. Here.
Just a general question. been in the news lately that studios like Disney and all of them are using Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah.
Because they're like replacing it with green screen. So they're having LED sets behind. So what I wanted to ask is that in indie films and all of that, is Unreal Engine being implemented?
Absolutely. Look, Unreal Engine. And I'll talk to you about yes, they are.
His question is Unreal Engine implemented in indie films, etc.? And the answer is yes. And I'll talk to you as we continue talking about the business model that is being used by the guys who made Unreal Engine, Epic Games. Yeah, you're onto it, man.
Yeah, good. Okay. All right. So this is the notion of convergence. You see, the notion of convergence is someone like me who knows the technical word, I think, is fuck all. I know very, very little. People like me who know very little. I'm a writer, I'm a director, okay? I'm not a technical human being. I can barely switch a computer on, okay? Someone like me, for me to be able to research this, for me to be able to think about how to create this world, this multiverse world, where we're going to use technology to tell the story I want to tell. And the story I want to tell is about identity. But you can't be scared of technology. If I, as a 62-year-old woman, can work with technology, so can all of you, okay? So it's only a matter of learning it, that's it, And that is the notion of convergence, the notion that all these things come together and that gaming and film and television and social media and radio and music and all these things, that they all come together to create the worlds that we are going to create or that we are creating. And I'm very critical of it, as my paper will indicate. I'm not an unabashed enthusiast for technology. I think the ethics behind technology are very questionable and very problematic. And we need to deal with these ethical issues. But we'll talk more about that. But also the notion of researching production ethnography, by which I mean, as I'm working on this project, I am thinking about the production process and keeping notes, including notes of this presentation, to think about what can we learn. You see, once a film is made, once you see Longchamp Paper Museum, once a film is made, I don't learn from it. I learn a little bit about audiences, but I don't learn. The maker of the film doesn't learn from the end product. The audience learns from the end product. The maker of the film or any content that you create learns from the process of making. And to study that process, I'm using ethnographic methods to study that process, which is a research methodology, okay? And therefore, for me, the production ethnography of this project is quite important. And therefore, there's an increasing need to document work at the cutting edges, because that's the only way knowledge goes forward, right? And so that question, are indies using Unreal Engine, is a very good question, because that documents what's happening in the world. Great. Let's carry on. Look, don't even for a moment think, this is so fantastically creative. This is wonderful. Yes, darling. Does anyone have another mic that can roam around?
Yeah, 1 second. For listening.
By the way, please don't breathe. I'm very scared of COVID. My mask is down there. I'm joking. क्या हुआ?
Like I said, there's no conference without tech difficulties.
Don't worry. Is this interesting? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm very happy to take questions. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very happy for questions in between, by the way. But I just wanted to go on quickly. Yeah.
I have a recommendation. There's an Unreal Engine 5 demo for Matrix Survey. Matrix Survey can demo for Unreal Engine 5. You should try it.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's available for free on the Unreal.
Thank you. I don't do Unreal. Jason does Unreal. I just do I like it? Do I not like it? Like it, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so I want to carry on and talk about convergence. Guys, okay, don't even for a moment think that what we're doing is tremendously creative. It is tremendously creative, but it is not the driver, okay? The driver for creativity is money, okay? Convergence is a real money spinner because, and I'll come back to this because the structure of my talk is like a harikatha where someone goes off, they come back, they go off, they come back, and I'll come back to this notion consistently. Convergence is a money spinner. And what do I mean by that? The same thing, okay, can exist as a television serial. It can exist as a film. Think about Pride and Prejudice, okay? Pride and Prejudice has been made 3 times as television serials, okay? 2 films called Pride and Prejudice. Another adaptation by Gurinder called Bride and Prejudice, okay? So then you have, and then you have audio recordings of Pride and Prejudice. You have the book. It started off with a book, you know? So now you could do a game on Pride and Prejudice, you know? A matchmaking game on Pride and Prejudice. Someone's got to patent that. Get on with it, guys. Okay, I've given you a great idea and you'll make a lot of money through that. So you see, when you have convergence, what happens is that whoever owns the rights, the property rights to that piece of work can monetize it in many different ways. So convergence is a money spinner. You mustn't forget that. Well, you won't be allowed to forget that, you know. Now, here's the thing, okay? In this metaverse that we are creating, by metaverse has many meanings at the moment and nobody quite knows what it means. This is why I was telling you, I don't quite know what I'm doing. I know I'm doing it, but I don't know what it is that I am doing. Those of you who played Second Life, how many of you played Second Life ever? How many of you know what there's one person. Who knows what Second Life is? Okay, Second Life, and I'll talk about Second Life. Yeah, you know what Second Life is. I'll talk about Second Life a little later. And I'll come back to that actually. But here's the thing, okay? What you're doing is actually selling property virtually in Second Life, okay? And setting up cities. But we'll come back to that. And metaverse is Second Life in avatar form with VR. That's essentially what metaverse is at the moment, okay? And it's really Fortnite. How many of you play Fortnite? Yeah, lots of you must be playing Fortnite. And go and talk to your younger brothers and sisters. Everyone aged 12 to 16 is playing Fortnite. You're too old already. I can tell you this, you know. Now, Fortnite, there are 3 games. There's Fortnite Battle Royale, where 100 of you get into a room and 1 of you survives. And it's a strategy game. You have to kill everybody else, but at the same time build, okay? Then there is Fortnite Save the World, where 4 of you get into a room and you really have to construct and build and find the enemy and kill the enemy, okay? And then there's Fortnite Creative, where creative control is given over to you as a player, and it's all about user experience, and you become the creator. Almost God, but not quite, okay? Because the real gods are the people who wrote the code. You know, they give you the illusion of creativity, they give you the illusion of control, but control actually lies outside of you. Okay. The problem is with the IP. Okay, here's the problem with the IP. And this also relates to that question about Unreal Engine and how people make money off things like that. The problem with IP is this, okay? If the IP stands for intellectual property rights. If the IP creator controls, then it's fine. Like in a film, the IP creator, as a producer, as a director, you control the film. Producer, as a producer, you control the film. Paying public comes, they watch the film, producer makes money, boom, okay? IP belongs to the producer, okay? But if I give over control to you as the creator of Fortnite Creative, and you put it up on your website or use one of their pipeline engines to showcase it, whatever you do, the creator is not Fortnite, the creator is you. What happens to IP? Where does IP go? You know, these are issues that we are grappling with at the moment in the industry, and NFTs and the metaverse, okay? Yes, you could sell that as an NFT, but an NFT is worth only that which anyone will give money to. NFT stands for non-fungible token. It is a nonsensical idea, okay? But it will take off. Just because I'm critical of it doesn't mean I don't know what might happen. And that is this: you create a work of art, okay? You are the IP owner of that work of art. But what you can do is create non-fungible tokens that are associated with that work of art. A non-fungible token is very simply a certificate. All you Indians who love certificates will love this, you know? NFT is a simple certificate which says you have seen this work of art and you possess this certificate about this work of art. You don't possess the work of art. And what you trade is not the work of art, but you trade the NFTs. भेजे में कुछ है? नहीं है. But banking also works along the same principles, believe it or not. We are all in for a big ride, guys. Okay. And therefore you can actually, in the metaverse, and the metaverse is essentially, you could, for example, create a metaverse of Bombay or Mumbai, okay? You create a Mumbai metaverse. You could say you have, okay, so there's a projection map of Mumbai somewhere, say in a silo of some kind in a big industrial warehouse, and you have this huge projection map of Mumbai, okay? And then what you turn around and do is overlay it with what Mumbai looked like in the 1950s, then what Mumbai looked like in the 1900s, then what Mumbai looked like in the 1850s, what Mumbai looked like when the Brits first came in, yeah? And so on. You could layer it, okay? Each layer, how do you uncover that layer? Using AR, augmented reality. So there's a bloody QR code, you put your phone against the QR code and it'll give you a huge number of centuries, you decide where you want to be. So then you decide to dress up in those clothes and you decide to go and inhabit that world. And you decide to buy some property in that world, okay? And now you are the owner of that property in the metaverse, not in reality, because in reality, you're living in the 21st century and not in the 18th. Whatever it is, you see, you can do these things. And this is the kind of world that we are creating. And this is what metaverse is actually about. Okay, I just need you to understand where all this is taking us. The problem for me is this, that in the metaverse, what we're trying to do is replicate what we already have in our world. What are we doing? We're looking at property. We're looking at, even if you're going to go and say you're going to create a metaverse of Oxford and you're going to have Newton in it. Okay, you're going to understand a bit of Newtonian physics, say. Whatever it is. It isn't difficult to understand Newtonian physics if you open a physics textbook. Why do you need a metaverse and explore Newton through that? We are not using our sense of metaverse, our sense of technology to create something that we do not yet know. We are using technology to replicate the world we already have. You go into metaverse, you create an island, you build a Burj Khalifa on this island, and you own it. And then you create an arts and crafts studio and you own it. And of course, you buy and sell this and you make money. And that money that you make in the metaverse can be converted into real money in our world. Okay, this is what is happening. And for me, the philosophical problem is this: why in the metaverse are we aiming to replicate what we already have in our world instead of imagining new and different things? And this is a challenge I would want to throw to all you young people, which of course you can't answer today, but maybe in the next 10 years, you will find it. I think the reason why we're doing this is that as humans, we are constantly seeking. We're seeking more and more thrills in the hope that they will lead us to real happiness. And in this world, if we think owning a house in Churchgate will make you happier than owning something in, in Borivali, which is better than owning something in Nasik, which is better than owning something in some godforsaken village, Jhumri Talaya. Okay, but mind you, Jhumri Talaya is a very interesting village. It's a really, really interesting village. But whatever it is, okay. I think what we're trying to do is actually work towards real happiness. And if we do and this is a real quick whistle tour, I could even skip the next 2 slides, but if we do a whistle stop tour of the history of media as a history of human craving for immersive experiences, we want more and more and more immersion. That's essentially, and that's our history, So really quickly trotting through it. First, there were plays and harikathas. This is why I'm structuring my talk like a harikatha, because that was very important. It was our way of understanding a world that we did not inhabit, Then there were newspapers. The first printed newspaper, Weekly Germany in Germany, 1609. First radio broadcast, 1920. Look, from 1609 to 1920, that's 300 years. Nothing much happened in the world other than newspapers, and they're weekly, then daily. First public screening of films, Lumiere Brothers, 1895, right? Then synchronized sound, 1930s. Experimenting in 3D starts in the 50s. And then television begins in earnest in the 50s, although John Logie Baird and BBC were experimenting in 1926, 27. Now, then you get into the immersive experience world, and you get into computer space in 1971, which was the first big arcade game. So this was still collective, and you were still going out to play. The difference really from films to gaming is up to films, the audience is a consumer and passive. But the moment you get into arcade games, the audience becomes active. You move from the passive to the active. So video games like Super Mario, did you guys, you're too young to play Super Mario. Okay. Yeah. You play Super Mario, yeah! Okay, I'll beat you. Okay. First-person shootouts, strategy games, then multiplayer online role games, and so on. They come in, okay? Second Life, which I talked about, begins in 2003. It really reaches its peak in 2013. And they monetize it using the Linden dollar. The money that you use in Second Life to buy and sell property was called the Linden dollar. And you could convert Linden dollar into dollars and pounds and Indian rupees and CNY, whatever. No, you couldn't convert it into CNY. China didn't allow that at that time. Okay. But the Linden dollar is what you played with, for those of you who played Second Life. Yeah. Second Life is a great game. Loved it. Okay. Now, the successor to Second Life is Sansar. Now, don't even think that words like Avatar and Sansar are just, the West loves India. No. There are very good reasons why these words are used, and I will come back and I will talk about that, Now, what they did was they sold Second Life, this new Sansar is Second Life with the VR experience, moving closer to metaverse, and they sold it because they wanted to concentrate back on Second Life. And then you get the addition of VR and AR technology, the way I was talking to you about layering through AR and VR, and the metaverse, which really has begun to take off in 2021. And the biggest metaverse players in the world are in China. The creators of the metaverse, the technological expertise actually lies in Canada, in the UK, in Australia, some in America, not so much, although Google and Apple are fighting each other, but the technology actually is in Canada because they have better tax breaks. Okay. Then let's carry on. So the point I'm making is that technology is being embraced for more and more immersive experiences, right? Tennyson makes Ulysses say, I will drink life to the lees, which means that, the lees are the bottom bit of wine left, the dredge of the wine, and he wants to drink his wine cup all the way through. And that is what we want. We want experiences that are taking us further and further and further into these virtual worlds. Okay? And these experiences are becoming so obsessive that we are forced to confront the fundamental Vedic and Upanishadic questions. What is real? And what is illusion? Is the screen world more real than reality? Reality is particularly by young people whose lives, my generation has made your generation miserable. I can tell you this, okay? My generation has had it easy. In the West, we've got pensions. Your generation has no pensions, nothing. And you're going to live to be 120. You have to work till you're a bloody 100. I pity you. And it's really my generation's fault. I apologize, really, seriously. But the point is this, that the world that you perceive as the world around you is a very difficult world. You have to go on a train for 1.5 hours, 2 hours commuting before you get anywhere. You have to work very hard to earn a small amount of money for a house that you can barely afford to keep. Your food, you cannot cook, you cannot live wholesomely, you have to eat rubbish food that other people cook for you, right? So the perception by a lot of young people is that this world that they are inhabiting is a world of difficulty. And you're caught in the sense that you have to look after your parents who are getting older and older and not dying. Parents need to die so the next generation can carry on. That's the order of the world. You are left looking after people who are getting frail, who are getting ill, but not dying. And so you sell your house to look after these people. All these things are happening. So the world around has become very difficult, which means you need escape. Now, Bollywood used to be a great escape, but it no longer suffices. So the escape lies in this world of illusion, right? So is that world into which you escape, where you can play forever and a day, where you lose sense of time. Now, time is a very important concept, and you lose that sense of time. Games can carry on for 400 hours, 500 hours of gaming, Is that world, therefore, does that world in which you can become an avatar, you can become whatever you want to be, does that world hold a greater sense of reality than the world you actually inhabit? Now, is the world of Maya that media creates so compelling that we do not want to leave it? Okay, and here I'm using the word Maya is very interesting in Hindu philosophy. I'm using it in the way that the word is used in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where Maya is not, you see, the question is, the ordinary interpretations of the word Maya is that it is illusion, okay? But actually that is not quite so. It is not an illusion in the sense that the world does not exist, It is an illusion in the sense that the world is not what you think it might be. And in that sense, it is illusory. If you read up Vroom and his interpretation of the Brihadaranyaka, that's where I'm taking that sense. And Maya has many different senses, and I use it in all these different senses, including the sense of Maya as the software that is used and there's a good reason. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Maya is for magic. In Rig Veda, Maya is neither positive nor negative. It is just an attribute. Maya, therefore, the software creates magic. Okay. So is the world of Maya that media creates so compelling that we do not want to leave it? And what of business? Of course, the Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks, etc., would have us believe that the experience of the metaverse is more exciting, it is more fulfilling, and more real than reality, than the real world that we inhabit. Listen, business exists for one reason alone: to make money. Politics is business. No politician can be a politician anywhere in the world, I think, if they don't make money. Some politicians, like in India, are more corrupt, but everybody is into making money, okay? Education. People are into making money. Yes, that you get educated is a byproduct. The main product is money making. Money drives the world. Money, money, money. It's a rich man's world. Don't forget that, okay? Right. And what do they do? What do they do? How do they make you spend money? Through a promise of happiness. You get your education, you will be happier. You will be more successful, okay? You play this game, you will be happier. You will be more successful. They make money through the fact that you are playing the game, right? Okay. So this world is seen as illusory for us because it does not satisfy us. We are searching, we are seeking, we are trying to find the next and the next and the next and the next, okay? Now, in Atharva Veda, the word Maya is used to mean power of creation. And for me as a creator, real happiness comes from that world of Maya, from the world of magic, where there is real magic when everybody gets together and creates music, or everybody gets together and makes a film. That for me is Maya, it's magic, So businesses, now, what are businesses doing? Businesses are enticing you into this world. They are giving us the opportunity to create avatars, storylines, even whole metaverses, and they are charging us for it. How are they charging us for it? They will offer you Unreal for free. But when you start making $1 million on Unreal, you start paying back. They want you to create because they realize that they themselves, a single creator is no good. If you have 100 creators, the chance of making more money is greater. So they will give their IP over to you to help you create so they can become rich. That's what's happening, okay? And of course, in the process, you enjoy your creativity and they get their money. Everybody is a winner. And there is therefore a real reason why there's so much interest in audience research and user experience, and these are becoming such powerful tools. Or what does the audience want? The audience, you and I, are at the same time very powerful and we are powerless. At the same time, we are profoundly intelligent and really stupid. At the same time, we are very creative and we give over our creativity for no money. You know? But what do we want? We want great content because we want to be immersed in a different world from the world we live in. And we want this at affordable prices. And we want it to be easily accessible. So technology has to be such that you can get it really quickly. An app that takes you more than 5 seconds to upload is no good. It has to be accessible. So, but the audience is disparate. The apps that you guys use, Tinder, I would never use Tinder. I'm married to a man for 35 years. He's a donkey, but that's all right. I love him. I love him. It's all right, Well, why would I use Tinder? But that's an app that you would use. All you young people need to be on Tinder. Yeah, it's another way of arranged marriages. All right. See, the audience is disparate. It's very different. You and I are very different as audiences, okay? But what unites audiences is that they're all seekers. I might go and look at a yoga website in the hope that one day I might do some yoga. You might go and look at a fitness website, Couch to 5K on the BBC, which will allow you to run 5 kilometers in 1 month from no exercise whatsoever. So whatever it is, we are all seekers. And we are seeking out, we are searching, we are surfing the net to find experiences that can create meaning for us and meaning that we can share. Because at the end of the day, humans are samudik, we are people who like other people. We are a herd species. So therefore, the audience is invited to become both consumers and co-creators. And through this, the audience are invited to experience sensory experiences, auditory experiences, audiovisual experiences, immersive experiences, all the kind of content that we're going to talk about in the next today and tomorrow, and perhaps later. We're invited to communicate. Because without communication, without saying, hey, look, I won this game, you don't enjoy it, right? And we are invited to be creative through our user-generated content, and through these acts, ultimately to find satisfaction and happiness. That is what we're all driving towards. So the same story can find its way as a book, a poem, a film, a graphic novel, an interactive game, an immersive theater experience, and so on. So the creators of these media artifacts are no longer creating one project, to come back to what I was talking about. Instead, they're creating an experience made up of multiple layers of engagements. And what are the implications for you guys as content creators of all this? I want to bring you back in the Harikatha tradition to my little film, Longchamp Paper Museum. The museum is no longer creating just one single project. Instead, what we're providing is a multi-layered experience across many artistic worlds where the virtual and the real come together. That's what has happened, right? So Longchamp Paper Museum was my case study that linked architecture, film, museology, tourism, industry, and business. And of course, each of them has their own production ethnographies. So it's the culminating of all these ethnographies through which we learn in creating multiple layers of meaning. But none of this is possible without collaboration and efforts. And that is where you guys come in. Thank you.
Wow.
There are my references for those of you who want it at the end.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Questions can be taken later.
Yeah.
Jaya?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Happy to take questions.
Yeah. Can we start with the question answer session a little later and start with Manirathan sir's session, 11:30. He's logged in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry about being late.
I can see him.
Hello. I can also see him.
Yes. Maniratnam Sarji, we are all here waiting for you to join us. I'm Dr. Manjula Srinivas, the head of the department. Jaya has come all the way from UK, and these are all my students. And none other than Sudha Ravi Shankar is here.
Hello, everyone.
I control that. Wait, I'll take this over.
Over to you, Sudha.
Yes.
Introduce him.
Sharath, can I get an extra mic? Yeah.
Yes, I put this.
Give me another mic. Give me another mic.
And we haven't full screen. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rama, for that interesting presentation. Sorry. It is now time for something that most of us have been waiting for, which is Musings with Mani Ratnam. This session will have Ms. Sudha Ravi Shankar in conversation with Mani sir. A brief introduction about Mani sir, not that he needs one, but a small piece of information. Born in 1955 in Tamil Nadu, Mani sir graduated with a degree in commerce from Madras University, followed by an MBA from the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. Mani sir's first film, Pandali Anu Pallavi, won the Karnataka State Award for Best Screenplay in 1983. He later went on to win many national awards in several categories for his subsequent films. In 1995, Bombay won the Gala Award at the Edinburgh Festival, and the 1997 film Iruvar was pronounced the best film at the Festival of the Author Films. At the Belgrade Film Festival, Kannathil Muthumittal, sorry sir, was the recipient of the In the Spirit of Freedom Award in memory of Win Van Leer at the Jerusalem International Film Festival 2002. It also won awards at the Indian Film Festival of Los Angeles and the 6th Annual Zimbabwe International Film Festival. His film Dil Se was the winner of the Best Asian Film at the Berlin International Film Festival. Retrospectives and tributes to Mani sir's work have been held at the Toronto International Film Festival, Busan International Film Festival, Tokyo FilmX, and Birmingham International Film Festival. His films are shown regularly at many important film festivals, including Cannes, Venice, Rotterdam, Toronto, Montreal, Busan, and Palm Springs. He has been the chairman of the jury of the International Film Festival of India at Goa in the year 2004. In September 2010, Mani sir was awarded the Gégir Locutier Glory to the Filmmaker Award at the 67th Venice International Film Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Mani sir. Before I hand over the mic to Sudha ma'am, here's a brief introduction of Sudha ma'am. Ms. Sudha Ravi Shankar, not that she's unknown to any of you, is an assistant professor at the Department of Mass Media at KCC College for the past 14 years. She has been a guide and mentor to hundreds of thousands of students across the undergraduate and postgraduate programs. Ma'am, over to you. And ma'am, before you start, Mani sir, I'm very, very, very sorry for all the wrong pronunciations.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mani sir. We would like to welcome you to the post-inaugural session of the 9th International Media Conference, Media, Content, Technology and Business, organized by the Department of Mass Media, KC College, HSNC University, Mumbai. All of us are really pleased to have you with us, including our Principal and Vice Chancellor, Dr. Hemlata Bagla. She extends a very warm welcome to you and is happy to have you and is a big fan of all your films. She calls you the magical movie maker. Our department, Dr. Manjula Srinivas, extends her welcome as well and is spellbound by your art. Dr. Jaya, I have nothing to say except that she is totally happy to have been here for this interview. The audience in the auditorium and all those virtually joining us are eagerly awaiting this interaction, Musings with Mani Ratnam. Thank you for coming. Now, my first question may be very, very simple and something that you may have answered many a time, but what attracted you to do films?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. And I got onto the Zoom call a little early and heard the end speech presentation, and I was totally spellbound. It was fantastic. I wish I was there, sitting as a student and listening.
Thank you.
What attracted me to a film? It was a little bit of an accident. It was not a planned thing. I didn't study film. I wish I had. I did management and then I was working here in Chennai. And before shifting from consultancy to the main industry, I thought I'll take a sabbatical of 6 months, and see how it is, because I've been fascinated by cinema from an early age. I didn't realize that I wanted to make it. I realized that I always liked cinema and had views, had thoughts, and possibly in screening of most theaters, I would probably know a little more than the guy sitting next to me. I would know the cameraman, maybe I would know the music composer of these films, things like that. But that's all. I never thought I would take it up as a career. But this gap in which I tried to get in, I think I got hooked. The first time you realize that you can actually conceive something, put it down, write it down as a scene is a very big high. The birth of an idea is really the best part of the filmmaking. So that's what got me hooked, and to realize that I could give it a shot. And I really thought that I'll give it a shot for 6 months. If it doesn't work, then I'll get back to the industry, but here I am.
So your 6 months was a great boon to us as an audience. Thank you. Well, it's been 40 years nearly as a director in commercial cinema. And how has your journey been, decade by decade?
The moment you start counting number of years, you feel old. Honestly, it doesn't feel like 40 years. It doesn't look like it's too far away. And I think, but what has changed is the way the entire industry is operated. It's grown leaps and bounds. Technology has changed drastically, both in sound and video. And the way films are produced are completely different, in terms of equipment, in terms of facility, in terms of, ability to put a lot more on screen, not just what is practical, but also what can be imaginative with all computer graphics coming in. So the growth has been unbelievable. If somebody had told me at the early stage that this would be possible, I would have never believed. I didn't think that even, the liberty that we have in sound, I never thought that we'll get it. when I was doing my first few films. So I think every decade has seen a change. Every decade has moved from step to step, and I think it's a very growing industry, in the sense it's a new art form, and it is developing as we speak. And I don't know how far it will go, but it is still growing, that much I know. And I think youngsters take to it much easier today than they did in the old days. In the old days, I remember once, a director came to me after I made my films, and he said, I want my son to join you as an assistant director. And I said, why? And he said, no, he's not very good at studies, so I want you to join here. That was the attitude at that point of time. Whereas now you realize that to be a filmmaker, you need all kind of exposures. You need formal education, plus you need ability to understand people, ability to understand politics, psychology, everything. And if you don't, you at least should be able to learn, pick up for each project, pick up something new and go with it.
So you very conveniently brought me to the next question I wanted to ask you. You belong to a breed of film producers and directors who come from a professionally educated background. How has it helped you in filmmaking? And is it production values or the packaging of the movie or the brand value? How has it helped you in the whole film process?
Yeah, when I started the first film or two, I thought that I would apply everything that I've learned in management onto film industry. So I used to do a PERT chart. I used to do, and clear budgeting and things like that. And it didn't last too long. It's just that it's not that the principles don't work. The principle has to be adapted completely different. Here, this industry, and especially filmmaking, shooting a film, is a very dynamic one. There's so many things that can change, whatever you plan, whatever you set, if the sun decides to go behind clouds, then your entire schedule has to be rearranged. So you should be able to have plan A, B, and C in everything that you do. And I think how, my education helped me is I realized not directly transporting from what you've learned onto, what you're doing, but what education gave me was a way of thinking, to look at things rationally and to have an approach which is kind of holistic. So when I started, I always had the question, what are we trying to say when you start a film? So it gives you a thought of defining what you want to go, where you want to go, and then the process starts. So I think education just gives you the confidence to take up anything, even if you don't know, that you can learn and work with it. So that's what it gives you. I think it gives you, the drive, the desire to keep excelling.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that one. I would like to understand, a success of a movie is, a lot of the success of a movie or any medium is context, yes, but a lot of it is also dependent on the audience. Okay. So do you agree with that? And I want to take it a little further and ask you this question. When you compare South Indian audience with a Hindi audience, which is more demanding, and why is it more demanding or challenging?
Well, I think what is success? That's really a good question. What is success? How do you define it? Is it just the box office collection? Is that what you come into cinema for? Or do you come in for a thought? Or you come in for an idea that you want to, tell stories in a particular way, deal with, issues with, which kind of bother you, which fascinate you, or which, intrigues you. So it depends on what goal you set for yourself. if you come in, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I make commercial films, but the goal is not just make what sells the most. The goal is I want to make the kind of films that I want to see. I would have liked to see. And I've been trying and I'm still nowhere near what I like. So I think that is what, to me, it means, success means to be able to, be fully happy with what you've done. I have not been able to. It's always been out of my reach, and I still keep trying. And because the standard for the rest of the world is so very high, there's so much more that one can do. It is just that you have to reach a little more. It is always elusive. It's just out of your reach, and you keep trying. And that is what it really, it's more an attempt than success or a failure.
Coming to the audience, what would you like to share with us on that?
I don't think there's much of a difference between South Indian audience and North Indian. Maybe the difference are all just cosmetic. I think in India, we basically love to listen to stories. We have grown with oral tradition. All our lives, we have, listened to stories which had everything in it. They were stories, but they also had, philosophy. They also had morals. They also had, rights and wrongs. They also gave you, scope to question and view things differently. So I think we're practically the same. Practically, like I said, cosmetically, they're different, but, intrinsically, I think it's the same. It's probably the same all over the world, but definitely the same throughout India.
Thank you for that one. When you were as a director, you've never been hesitant to take a new talent and make them act in your movies. And what makes you take that gamble, number one? And who has been your surprise package with whom you took a chance and raked in the recognition and success for them and for the movie?
Yeah, the first gamble that I took was with myself.
Yes.
I was a newcomer. I didn't know how to make films. I was not taught. I didn't have a clue. It's just that there was a desire, and there was this, I think, early confidence when you're young and you're not too scared, that you think you can do it. And that's what I took a very, very big chance on and jumped into it. I could have been thrown out after the first film very easily. This, it's not just, what you put out, not just your film, but it also depends on when it is put out, what else is happening around the world at that point of time. So there is an element of the right time and the right place. So all that should happen. So it is a chance that we take. The percentage of, of being able to do one more film after each film is not very, very high, in terms of percentage for the entire industry, I think. So it is just your passion. If it is just a job, or if it is just your target to become a director, then I think it's very limited. But if your target is to do one more film after each film, then the target is forever alive.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come to your latest directorial venture, the magnum opus, Kalki's Ponniyin Selvan. It's a very embedded and layered story. And I'm sure it's taken a lot of time and research to deconstruct the whole thing and the theme and the nuances. What prompted you to take up this adaptation?
It's a historical fiction. It's probably the best-selling Tamil classic over 50 years. Even the last book fair, it probably was the best-selling book. Everybody who's read it as an authority, they've read it some 10 times. They're all waiting for me to make the film, and then with a book in hand, and they're saying, this is not there, that is not there. So it is what it is, but I've read it when I was probably in school, end of school, and was fascinated. I feel that it's so lends itself to cinema. There's so much of, it's a the closest I can say is like an Alexander Dumas kind of a novel.
Yeah.
History, but there is a lot of fiction, there's a lot of adventure, there are very intriguing characters, there's ploy, there's plot, there's palace intrigue, and there are wars. So it is ideal, to have it on the big screen, to be able to capture it. And it's a period where it talks of the Chola period before it went into the golden era. It was one of the biggest dynasties, on one of the longest, living dynasty of kingdom that was there at that point of time. And they really were outstanding in a lot of invention that they did. It still remains a lot of water bodies in Tamil Nadu comes from the 10th century. A lot of tax system, a lot of social reforms, all of that comes from there. Organization, the way the government is run, plenty of inputs are still being followed. So it was an important history for us to revisit, to take to take it across India, to bring that to light, to revisit it, it can't be just a book, a chapter that we read in history in school, early school. It can be more than that. Each person can find out more. And I think this film gives me a chance to do that.
And you're very fortunate because you studied history in Tamil Nadu. Outside of Tamil Nadu up north, we don't know any of the Chola or the Chera or the Pandyan history. So that is a very interesting contribution. Thank you for that. Yeah. Now, I wanted to ask you a question. This is about which school or schools of cinema have influenced you a lot, both Indian and international? And also, which one do you subscribe to? Or is it that you have your own school?
That would be nice to have my own school, but I don't. I think more or less ties with what you had asked earlier, that the change that happens over decades, and the school, like I said, the art form is still growing, it's changing, it's finding new methods and new masters. So when I started early, I was fascinated by the masters then, Kurosawa, was really a, eye-opener for me. The magic of cinema I learned when I watched his film. So that's what drew me to cinema, I think. And then I became a lot more serious student of cinema and watched more. But it has not been only that. Then you discover more directors from the previous era, and then the new ones that come. You get into all the European masters, Bergman and Fellini, and so you kind of evolve. It's not one school that you intake. I always felt that you're made out of things that you've liked and things that you have not liked. Things that you have not liked will not come into your films, and things you liked will find a way into your way of thinking. So I think both of them are very strong inputs. So I think a filmmaker should have strong likes and dislikes, and it is a constant growing process. There are new schools that keep coming. Tarantino comes and opens up another school altogether, and the next gen will come up with other forms, and then there'll be a blend between the old classic and the neo one. So it's like literature, it just keeps evolving.
Okay. But coming to, since academics is so close to our heart and we're having a conference on content technology and business, we have many film schools, colleges and universities offering programs in film studies, film production, appreciation and other facets of films. Do you think the programs are doing justice to film and filmmaking?
I've not seen all the programs for me to make any comment on that. But the way I understand from what I have gone through, if you if I look back at the Management Institute and wonder whether it prepares me enough to get into the industry, into the world of business, does it? I mean, can anyone prepare you enough for what you're going to face in life? I don't think. I think what it does is it opens the door for you. It says how you can reach out, how you can understand, and where to seek what you need to seek. And I sometimes feel that it is not just the education curriculum, it is not just the lectures that you listen to, but it is also the students that you study with. I mean, when you have a group of students who are passionate about one thing, that rubs off. It is not just the lectures that you listen to, but it's also the fact that you're seeing somebody else next to you and around you who are equally passionate. So the classroom doesn't finish there. It continues into debates and in views and in arguments and fights, everything. I think the group of people is as educative as the curriculum is. So I think, yeah, I think that I really wish I had done a film program.
But you're there for the youngsters to be guided. That's important now with your experience and the kind of exposure. I would now like to shift to the new platforms and movies and short movies made in that space. So what is your take on that one?
Yeah, like I was telling, it's another huge change. It's a game changer for a filmmaker, especially because now you're not restricted to telling stories which are 2 hours or 2.5 hours long. You have a choice. You can tell a story which is 10 minutes, which is 2 minutes, which is 15, 30, and 6 hours, and many, many more hours. So it's an absolutely liberating, feel that you have today. So, and it gives you the freedom to, to experiment different forms, different styles, different genres. And I think it's a very big boon for future storytellers. I think all of them in the classroom, they all benefit from it.
Okay. What was your experience in making Navarasa for the OTT space? And I also want to add here that during the pandemic, you took up this option as a kind of a CSR to help all those people who were out of a job during that time. So what was your experience on the CSR front and on the movie making front?
Yeah, that was it was a very important thing, which was the most gratifying thing. That, see, in the film industry, 90% of the film employees are daily wage earners, and whether they work in the costume department or in the electrical department or lighting or drive cars for the film, all of them survive every day by the money they make on that day's shooting. If you don't have shooting, and then they have no income. And we didn't have shooting for 2 years, so it was really, taxing on them. So we tried this initiative, and every technician that we approached, every director, every actor that we asked to do this film, to do this series pro bono, just without hesitation came forward, and it was shot with all precautions, but during the pandemic. And it drove everyone because of the cause for which it is being made. And it was absolutely satisfying. And I'm really, really grateful to every one of them who have pitched in and helped us. And this has benefited quite a huge group of workers. And I think it makes you feel very happy.
It's very satisfying. I understand that. You've made so many films. I don't want to get there, but I want to ask you one question. Which is your personal favorite in this entire?
Like I told you, never can satisfy yourself. There's world standard is so high that you can't say, yeah, this is my best and things like that. I really don't think to me personally, once I finish the film, it's very difficult for me to see the film again. It's out of my system because it troubles me a lot. All that I can see after the film is made, when I see it out on bits and televisions, or I can see only the mistakes. So yeah, I don't go there at all. So I think each film has its own difficulties. It's never been easy. It's always been a struggle. The struggle is to try to do it a bit better than what you can, and that's what keeps it alive. I think that's why every film still looks like a first film, and you're still trying to figure out how to shoot it and how to put it together.
I guess that applies to any kind of profession when you're dedicated and passionate about the whole thing. It's never not enough what you do. So yeah, that's it. What are your views on documentary films in India?
Yeah, I think it's in India somewhere. It's never been, after the films division went away, there've never been serious attempt on documentaries. There have been, of course, there's some very good ones, but not, a concentrated effort, and not seeing too many youngsters taking it up full time. But I think that will change definitely with this OTT platforms coming and supporting documentaries, and people are realizing documentaries can be very interesting. So, and it will not be difficult in this day and age to see a documentary, whereas previously we had to wait for it to come to some screen and then look for it and be able to watch it. Now it is there with us. It is there on a phone, on a laptop, on your television. So I think this industry will definitely take huge strides forward.
Okay. Your movies have always had a lovely music score, however, whatever genre it is. So why, in your opinion, is music so important to film?
Music brings a different layer to the film. See, the drama of it comes out from the words, from the performance, from the ambience and everything. We are able to visually see and understand what they're talking about. What is that they're exchanging? But what music does is it enables us to get into what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what we are not seeing on screen. Music brings it. So it gives the director a huge tool to get into the mind of the characters, to the heart of the characters. So what they feel, even when they say something, if their emotion is different, then the music can talk about that emotion and not about what they're talking. So it gives that a fantastic layer, a subtext, which kind of, it gives you sometimes a world. It gives you the atmosphere that it is a practical world, but in his mind, if there is a tension, if there is, a sense of fear, that music brings in. So it's a very, very, very important, device in storytelling, and it's a big asset to a filmmaker.
Another part of your film, apart from music, there is a lot of symbolism. You use a lot of symbolism. How has that helped you in your entire film process?
Why do we, have metaphors in the first place? Now, why do we have it? We have it because I think otherwise putting it plainly is too mundane. It's like explaining. Whereas when you go through a metaphor, you're able to take it to a different plane altogether. You're able to correlate and give it an abstract formation, and from the moment that it's been used, it continues to be used till today. Metaphors, even on a daily basis, we kind of lean on to that. And in films, it's the same. I mean, the way I see it is that what is said symbolically is more to give you, is more not for you to see directly. I think a lot of symbolism that we put in may not be seen, but it will be felt. An ambience, there'll be dynamics, visual dynamics, which kind of set it symbolically, somebody being dominant, somebody being lesser, and you stage it in such a way that, that was there. But people who watch it could be watching only the drama. But I think the sense of the dominance and, dependence would come through by the way it is being presented. So symbolism is like that. It is it's a tool as long as it's not too evident, as long as it is not in your face. If it is going to be so evident, then you might as well use the dialogue for it. And is to keep it subtle, keep it, if they don't get it, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, okay. I'm coming to a point where I want to ask you that for a movie, again, to be successful in its making and run, there's a lot of, you need to create that environment, between actors, between the crew members and the actors and the director. So I've heard a lot of nice things about yours on your sets. So how do you ensure that this happens in the workplace?
I'm glad you heard the nice things and not other things.
No, I'm not telling the other ones.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. No, I think it's a part of the job. Man management is as important as the creative side in filmmaking is concerned. This is an art form which is so collaborative. It is not one person's. Though I might call it a Mani Ratnam film, it is not a Mani Ratnam film. It is by several people working together towards it. So it needs to be able to keep all of them involved, and not only just involved and without friction. You need them to bring in their best. You need them to contribute, put their best foot forward, and make sure that your job is to make sure that that you get the best out of them, but still remain honest to the core of the film. Still focus on what I don't think it is really different from, say, a corporate office. There's so many different people. How do they come together and produce something and become efficient and keep growing? It's very similar. Only thing, ours is a lot more dynamic, more colorful people. Actors are a different breed altogether. So we have to learn to handle things, and it's different because we are constantly working under a certain pressure. There's a pressure of time, there's a pressure of budget, there's a pressure of sun going down too fast, and
the weather not listening to you.
And the weather doesn't listen to me, and you're running out of money. So it's under this pressure that we have to make sure that we do as well as we can.
I know another thing, or I've understood another thing of your movies, that you spend a lot of time on pre-production. So how much time do you normally, how much is your lead time? Depending on the films, of course.
Yeah, I think it really depends on film. Sometimes let me say that, an idea for a film comes, but you think that it can be made in a movie, but it doesn't happen, doesn't fall into place. You leave it aside, get on with something else. And 2 years later, you might take that back because it's still ringing in your mind. You then feel that maybe it has something because it doesn't leave you. And you take that up and then do it. And from the moment you decide this is the project that I'm going to do next, that's when the pre-production really starts. Where you write your script and you cast, you find locations, and you do all your requirements. I think that research that you have to do, and will vary depending on the film and depending on your knowledge about the world. Already if you are predisposed or not, so that will change. And sometimes it could take a year or so, sometimes more. And sometimes it is just, you can start a film within 3 months of the time that you're locked. So there's no rule, hard and fast rule. It is, how much you want to be prepared. I've known of a lot of filmmakers in Europe, for example, who go without a full script, without a script, trust the actors, talk through and make some classics out of that. So it depends upon your style, also what you want. Some people are perfectionists, they have complete storyboard, before they go. Some people go with, an idea and develop it on the spot.
Thank you. I'd like to know some of the recent movies which are a must-see for any audience and especially for students of film and media.
I think that will take the whole week if you talk about that.
I know, but you can suggest some.
I don't think that the film which are must-see are what kind of films that you like. Not necessarily what I like. So you have to identify something because that's where you learn from. It's not my idea of what a good film is that should be imposed on you. I think you should discover. I think you should look for it. You like something, you work with that and go forward, see what else is there, but the same filmmaker of that or in that genre, and discover it. I think that is a huge learning curve, learning time. You find somebody, it's like finding a treasure. You find a director, then you finding 15 films maybe of his that you can watch and learn, and not necessarily at one go. You can do it over years and years. Every time you see it, you take different things inside. So I think, watching and reading on, are two very important things. You learn a lot. I'm saying even watching films that you don't like, you learn a lot. You find what is it that you don't like, and that kind of defines you. So I think it's each one has to find their path, not necessarily go with what is supposed to be like, what is supposed to be classic, what is supposed to be new wave. Those lines are going away now. It's sorry?
It's getting blurred, I said.
Yeah.
The lines are getting blurred.
True, yeah.
Now, in your entire filmography space, who is your most favorite or favorites of Indian film direction? Do you have any particular favorites?
Indian film directors?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. I think if I look at first with Tamil, for example, which is where I've grown up, and which, film director called K. Balachandar, basically because that's when I realized that there was a mind behind the stories that were being told, mind behind actors that we knew, stars that we knew. There was somebody else, and that is a director, that is a storyteller. So he made me aware of something like this, aware of what job I can finally take on. So he is very important. But as I grew more interested in films, I've liked masters. Gurudutt was special in Hindi. And on another plane, maybe Vijay Anand was equally special. Of course, we saw Satyajit Ray and Adur Gopalakrishnan. All those I kind of came to see much later, but that's what I meant by that. You can start learning at any point of time. You can visit them at any point of time. Charulata works first time, and Charulata works even today. So
And what about the influence of foreign film directors?
I think it's always been there. It is not as though, I mean, I think film is a language, and the language is used to tell stories which are Indian. So you will use the form of the language, the poetry of the language, could be inspired from anywhere. But if the stories are essentially from here, from the roots, then it's a kind of a nice blend that. And, if something has been said and said in a particular fashion, you have to reach and find another way of saying it. Otherwise, it just becomes a cliche. 10 people say the same thing, same method of saying. You might say different things, but if the the phrases and the structure is same, then it gets a cliche. People know before you even open your mouth. So you have to keep finding ways which are your own, which you have to hone and develop and not be static. It just has to keep evolving.
So the moral is that it's not what you say, but how you say it.
Yeah, it is what you say, but it is also how you say it.
Okay. I know you share a very special bond with both Ilayaraja and A.R. Rahman in the music space. Yes. So what is it that creates that magic? Is it something?
I think there are two. Both of them are genius. I mean, it's amazing to have such gifted, such talented, such. I've really been lucky that I've had these two to score films for me, to work with me. And both of them are absolutely brilliant. And I think as a industry, Indian industry, I think we're lucky to have such brilliant people working with us.
Okay. Now I come to as a true spirit of an academician. I'm going to ask you one question, which is, we have some very enthusiastic youngsters here who are young filmmakers and those who are interested in film, if I may say so. So what is your advice to them at this point in time where it's still evolving and changing and different platforms and everything? So
my advice is don't listen to advices. Okay. You find your own path, I mean, you know it in your heart, what is right and what is wrong. You've all grown up and taking this up because there is a strong view that you have and what you like and what you don't like. Cling on to that. Have your view and don't let too many people dictate. Be open, but also be clear, I think. And like I said, don't listen to anything that I say.
Okay, fine. That's good. So if you find your own paths, you choose your own thing, you make up your own mind, and you choose what you want and how to do it. That would be the advice. I won't say advice, a suggestion that you did. Okay. That was the last question from my end, but we have some questions from the audience.
Jaya wants to ask.
Okay.
No, you ask the questions.
Okay. Speaking of one of the most precious films of the Indian film industry, Guru, what was the process you followed to visually characterize each character in the movie, especially that of Abhishek Bachchan, since you are the writer of the film as well?
Yeah, what do you follow? I mean, you just feel, to me, Guru was something more than just a character. I think it was the change that India was going through from what it was and what it became. Guru didn't happen in my mind till I had that contrast between, him and the newspaper baron, who the newspaper baron is from a different era with a different set of principles, with a different view on society and what is right and what is wrong. And the new generation which comes and says that whichever way it is, I'm going to get there. So I think India went through that transition, from being left of center to right of center, and Guru was trying to capture that. So that was the essence. I mean, when I had the idea, the story didn't fall into place till I had the character of Mithun Chakravarti.
Mm-hmm.
And once that came in, then it became easier. So that was the process.
It was the entire license Raj that was captured in the movie at that point in time, if I may say so.
Yeah. And not really license Raj, and how it was handled, how it was used, and how it was, whereas the generation before were still, still put the society before themselves. Still we were in Lal Bahadur Shastri's era, where, the principles were different. There was definite leaning towards the left, and this became a distinct leaning towards the right. So, and it happened in front of our eyes, so it needed to be told.
Okay. The second question is Ponniyin Selvan again. Is 5 parts with so many characters, and since this film is derived from the novel, how different was it writing this film compared to your earlier films, and how difficult was it to bring such a huge story with so many characters into a 2-part film without losing the sense?
Okay. So first, can I correct the pronunciation? It is Ponniyin Selvan.
Selvan, okay.
Selvan, okay.
Done.
Okay. Yeah, it is 5 parts, and it is a lot of story. There's no way that it can all be fitted into, a film. I was lucky because we are at a time they're willing to, people are willing to back you when you want to do it as 2 films. So we're doing it as 2 parts, so that gave us a little elbow room. And then, like I was telling, that everybody who's read Ponniyin Selvan has their own idea of Ponniyin Selvan, how Vandiyathevan should be, how Alvarkadiyan Nambi should be. Everyone has their own image. So we have to do something that, what I feel is the heart of the film, heart of the story, and go with it, go with the essence of it. And in a novel, you're able to go explore completely different, routes, spread out like all novels do, spread wide across. And then it is not necessary to tie all of them up in a novel. You can let strands loose. Whereas in film, we need everything to be formed together. We need it to be structured, and we need it to be answers to come in. We can't have contradictions. And so those are the things that we have to kind of straighten it out and, make sure that it was linear, understandable, and, had the spirit of Kalki.
That's a difficult thing to make it seamless, the transition. Yeah. So there is another question from the audience. How love stories like Kadal Kanmani are unconventional compared to Bollywood love stories? Please dwell a little on your idea of love stories and their portrayal in films.
You tell me whether it's different at all. It could be the same, in the sense that it is about people, and if you have 2 characters, and if their world and that the time in which they live in, it gets reflected, then it gives you another angle. So that is what to me, it is not just because it is a love story between a man and a woman. It could be I could do a love story between a mother and a child, which is what I did the next film. So, I mean, it is, we are dealing with human relationships basically in most of our stories. And some of them happen to be about a man and a woman. Some of them take Romeo and Juliet as the base and get from there. Whereas others can be about, conflicts, about, about the politics, about the philosophy. You have a whole world of ideas that you can take from.
Thank you. What is your process for crafting the screenplay when adapting a really long story? It's gone back to Ponniyin Selvan. How do you decide what needs to be shown on screen and what to eliminate?
see, there's no rule. There's nothing. No one's said that if you make Ponniyin Selvan, this is how you should make. You have to form your own structure, and that is the storyteller in you that decides that this is how I'll go. To a large extent, it's a huge advantage because characters are well defined, the path is well defined, and lots of things are laid out for you in the novel, which is just a huge plus to start with. And once you have that, then you have the people, you have live characters in your grasp, and then you just make sure that it's streamlined and that you are able to get a couple of layers below just the plot. Not just that, but also the rhythm of it, the pace of it, and the romance of it, in the sense the adventure and the danger and all that world of 10th century, to go transfer there and place these characters through that, is what I've taken as a path.
Okay. Thank you again. It has been 25 years since the release of Iruvar, considered the best of your works. How was the process of casting and shooting the film, considering it had Mohanlal and Prakash Raj in particular?
I think Iruvar to me, was a very big changing, point for me. It opened up something for me, which I've, used since then. That, that it is based from the spirit of two real characters. And when you see the drama that happens in their life, you see it very different from the way I would have written it if I had written it as a fictional piece. When we had, if I had written it as the journey of two men, who were friends and who had dreams and then who broke up and, went against each other. If I had told that story without it being, without understanding what really happened, I would have made the friendship so thick. And then when the conflict, when they went apart, we would tend to dramatize that and make that enmity very strong. Whereas in real life, it is not that. It has shades right in the first scene. There is as they become friends, there is also conflict. And that is an eye-opener for me. So it kind of, said that that real life is so much more beautiful, so much more layered, so much, and it's not just, dramatic points. It is about people, and that at the stage where the friendship is growing, there can be doubt, there can be fear, there can be insecurities, and a stage where there's enmity is taking there, there can still be, care, concern, and respect. So it kind of is a beautiful, layer that I found in that film, and that's what I try to use afterwards on all the films, to have something which rings that true, that real.
Before the last two questions from the audience, we have our keynote speaker wanting to ask you a question.
Sure.
So you can go ahead.
Mr. Maniratnam, I absolutely love films. Thank you very much for making them. Here's my question for you. You're a writer-director, and all writer-directors know that a film is made with a lot of people, which is what you've been referring to: the cinematographer, the sound design, the costume, the makeup, the guy who pulls the dolly, the grip who pulls the dolly, the light man, all these people who make up a film, and not one of them can go wrong. How do you relates that to the question of the auteur tradition. Do you think of yourself as an auteur, or do you think of yourself as a collaborator? Where do you in your head place yourself?
Yeah, good question. Didn't know what I was walking into. I should have guessed the question would be something. No, I think it's a very good question. I shall, next time I go to shoot, I shall think and wonder whether I'm an auteur or a collaborator. But I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think when you're writing on at your table, when you're conceiving it, when you're developing it, you're the auteur. You want this world, you want these kind of characters, you think this is the way it should be, and this is how they will do. So everything is in your control as long as you're on the table. But the moment you go to the shoot, to the floor, to the location, then there is an actor who comes in front of you, and there's an actor who plays that role. And I believe that the actor should invest something of himself into the film. It should not be what I've written on the table. It should grow beyond it. So there you become a collaborator. You try to get the best out of them. I want each one of them to put in, add value, because I feel the magic happens only on the spot. That what is written is a cold thing written in a desk with a window in front of you. And it has to become a moment of reality, moment which could be possible, that you should feel that this could have happened, or this has happened, or this might happen. It should fall into somewhere in that spectrum. And that you do as a collaborator. There, I think you take the role of that and you use the inputs. There'll be several magic that might happen on the spot. Some accidents. One of the actors calls it, Mohanlal calls it happy accident, which unexpected things happen during a take, and that makes that moment so real. So those are not in your hands. Those you really don't plan. You just capture. It's something like that comes, you grab, and sometimes I'm guilty when I find something like that. I grab it soon and I say cut very fast, thinking that it'll disappear. So I've learned to be patient. So I think if on table I'm an auteur, on a spot I'm a collaborator.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roja and Bombay are political critiques. Guru is a bio, Kadal is a love story. So please tell us how you choose your stories.
I try to be as different from the previous film as possible. No, that's the first rule that I have to myself. Basically, because it keeps you fresh, that you always have a tendency to fall back on something that you've done before, that works, that is safe. And the best way to come out of the safety net is not to go there again. Find something which you don't know and which you have to discover. You have to find a way of doing it. So to a large extent, that is what makes me decide to keep shifting the kind of films that I'm making.
Okay, we have two more questions before we call it a day. After Kashmir Files, there is an urge and everyone demanding to pick such stories everywhere in news, Bollywood, etc. Like the events happened in the past. What do you think that these films create awareness or just helping politics and creating a polarization in society? What is your understanding on the future of film storytelling in India?
I mean, honestly, I've not seen Kashmir Files, so there's no way that I'll be able to say anything about it. I should see it and then maybe I can react. But I can tell you from what I've gone through, when I did Bombay, it got stuck in censor board, and there's a Tamil film, the censor happened in Tamil, but they didn't want to take a chance. They sent it to Bombay. So I used to come every week to Bombay, and every week different kind of people will sit, not just the censor board, they would call people from the secretariat, some everywhere else, and it just went on. Then you realize that it is because there was a Maharashtra election that was coming that the film got delayed more and more. And during that process, I had to meet the Commissioner of Police in Bombay. And he told me this film will never release. He says, no, it can't release. And we put everything that we believed in into it, and somebody is saying it won't release, it just breaks you. So I'm asking him why. He says that, with a lot of difficulty, we've been sorting the wounds of Bombay riots. We're trying to build things together and why do you want to make a film which talks about it again? So I had to tell him that, the way he is doing of bringing peace is one way, but that is not the only way. Art can do the same thing differently. It is possible to, make people feel, understand, live through, and come out of the more evolved and look at another point of view, look at both sides. So it is, it's all been done. This cinema or art for that matter have always dealt with political issues and had its own contribution. Artists had their own contribution to what was happening in the society. So to say that they cannot do this is shutting out all other ways except your own way. So it is important for filmmakers to, do films which bother them, which are, they are first citizens and they're living in a society. And if something is happening which they want to, address, then they should do the best they can.
Thank you. That was amazing. Sharing your experience for Bombay was really amazing. Thank you so much for that. Now, the last question which says, we often say that the art and the artist should be kept separate from one another. What's your take on that, and to what extent is it possible to make such a distinction?
I think, really, I don't have a clear answer to it because I think some of these statements are just made, which is right for some circumstances and may not be right for another. But I think art and artists are not exactly the same. It is not an equal to. It is an indicative. There is definitely a bit of the artist in the art, but what is in the art need not necessarily be completely the artist. There could be other influences, there could be other, when I'm presenting to you, for example, when I'm answering the questions to you, I might be saying what I think will, sound right for you, so it may not be 100% me, though one tries to be. So there is, what you put out is slightly modified version of what you are, and they need not be necessarily the same. So I think art is what we take, artist is what we get to know, so.
On behalf of the Department of Mass Media, KC College, HSNC University, Bombay, I take this opportunity to thank you, Mani sir, for an exciting.
Thank you very much. It was lovely being here.
I got to say that this 1 hour or 1.5 hours that we've had with you has been amazing as a journey, as a student of media, as a student of filmmaking. Though we have been in that space, it was amazing because we want to learn a lot more than what we could see in films or learn from anybody else. Thank you so much for your time. Pleasure.
Thank you. All the very best to all of you.
Hello, Mani sir, are you there?
I think he's left.
Can everyone please stay seated? Thank you so much. Please love for
What an interview, what a set of questions. I was sitting on the edge, worried that what if the questions are not getting answered properly. So I think Sudha ma'am, you did a fantastic job. You know, from Saturday onwards, I've been observing Srinivas, who works with a swelled up hand for the deck, a Surya who works for a birthday. Post her retirement. A Kanika who joined us a month back and another partner who. So I think it makes me very emotional today. This was our dream. We have missed her question answer session. If there are any questions for Jaya, she's there. Jaya, would you like to just come up? Professor Jaya from Edinburgh Napier University, Scotland. What a film that was. I don't want to go to China, actually.
You have questions. You want lunch? The answer. You have questions. I can tell you one incident, a production ethnography incident on that shoot. And this is China. Sorry, what happened was, there was one guy who we cut out of the film. Always be careful with filmmakers, because if you don't like it, they cut you out of the film, you know. This guy was a fraud. And you don't know whether someone's a fraud or not until you discover it with time, you know. And he was taking us to the quarry, the volcanic quarries, you know. The hills are volcanic over there, and so I wanted shots of the way the person who worked on the stonework. So he took us there. It was really awful. This terrible guy and a liar. I'm very drunk. Amongst many, and it's very hard. I don't mind people drinking, but it's very hard to work with a drunk actor, as it were. And he wanted what is the equivalent of 100 pounds, equivalent of 10,000 rupees, okay? More than anybody else had been given. And the production manager, who's Chinese, turned around and said, no, I'm not giving you that money. For what? You came drunk. You were late. We had to reschedule our shoot because of you, and you think we're going to give you that? Forget it. Okay? Now, what I've got to tell you is, before this, I was in a rush because of lights. You know, Mani Ratna was talking about light. Light is so important. All of you have to know what east, west, north, south is. You must have compasses on your phones, otherwise you can't be filming. Okay. I was rushing because of the lights, and we killed the chicken on the road. The driver, and she was fantastic. She was this wonderful woman. Because in that area, the people who drive are women. The men work in the border areas, she was a great driver. And she went off to find, after she dropped us in meeting, to find out whose chicken it was and to give them the money. They didn't find it. They didn't know whose chicken it was. And I kind of felt responsible. And I felt somehow I had to pay. Karmically, I had to pay for the death of this chicken. And I did pay with this guy. Okay? So that's the background. Backstory, real story. Okay, that was the backstory. Real story. So what this guy did, because he didn't get extra money, was we finished the shoot, last day of the shoot, we've come back to the hotel, one tiny little hotel, it's a bit like this paradise. What's it called? This place I'm staying in, Sun City, Apollo. Not posh or anything, just nice little combo hotel. Very nice, very lovely. And we used to barbecue outside, and I'm vegetarian. It's a fantastic machine barbecue. I used to have that. Any case, so we were all having this barbecue, and in walk a whole load of police and media people. It's the media department, i.e. the censorship board, and they allow us to finish eating, and then because I didn't speak Chinese, right? They called the production manager up. She had to go up and she had to answer a whole lot of questions, and her boyfriend, who was the architect with whom I was working, and he was American, and he'd been at Yale, and he was a really big architect. Very, very nervous about what was happening to his girlfriend. 2 hours later, the crew had this black guy who was a DOP from Hollywood, me, 2 students who were shooting for me, neither of them Chinese translator, Chinese production manager, and the architect. 7, 8 people. It's a very large team for documentary. But any case, eventually I got called up, right? And they wanted to know, the question that they had was, why are you stealing the secrets of paper making? You're going to steal the secret of paper making, all you people, and show the rest of the world, and we will lose our secrets of paper making. You're a woman, using Google, using YouTube, go find it on YouTube and Google. You want to make paper, you wouldn't look at my film, you would go and see those, But I sat there, the DOP, when he heard that I was being called up, said, those guys are dead. Finished. The child's going up, they're dead, he said. But what I wanted to do was give my students time to hide the SD cards, right? Because the fear was they would take our footage away. And these 2 students, they were both girls, and don't even think for a moment that if you're a woman, you can't shoot, because cameras have become lighter and lighter, and it's all fine. Amazing, absolutely amazing. What they did was they took these SD cards and put them in their sanitary napkins. I had not even thought of that. And they said, well, which policeman or media, one of these media guys, which man will open the sanitary napkin to check whether it's got footage or not? And that's how we saved the footage. And then they had to save their face, because in China, like in India, saving face is very important. So they wanted to see some shots, and the shots that they chose to see were all the NG. NG is not good. Okay, so 3-second shots, 5-second shots. You go NG and you put your hand in front of the camera. Oh, sir, we're very sorry. We're only learning. We're not very good. They're very good camera people. Oh, we're only learning. We're not very good, they said. And that's how we got through it. So production ethnography, and like Manira, I'm talking to you about the number of times he went to Bombay, and the policeman saying to him, the head of police saying, this will never get released. These things are real, they really happen. Filmmaking is about finding solutions to them. There you are, there's a story for you.
Thank you. Thank So I came out to when I left, I felt that the chicken was in peace.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing that wonderful story. Before we break for lunch, I would like to thank our media partners, Marathi digital media partners Savna Online, online radio partner Radio Adda, digital radio partner Mirchi Campus, and digital outdoor media partners Fair Connect. Before we close for lunch, ma'am, do you want me to? I call upon Surya ma'am to let you all know which parallel sessions you all will be in.
So thank the marketing.
I would also like to thank our marketing partners, Branding Edge and Legal Launchpad. Guys, a huge round of applause for our partners. And also thank you for the food also, but thodi bajao.
Thank you, Fatima. Just a small announcement before we go for a lunch break. We'll be starting exactly at 1:30 with our parallel sessions. Just a small note, the parallel sessions are not happening in the auditorium. The sessions are happening in 501, 502 and 402. All the volunteers and all the classes will get the message with which class has to go where on their WhatsApp in maybe next 5 minutes. Make sure you are seated by 1:30 in the respective classrooms. All the volunteers will be starting with the sessions immediately. A schedule will also reach to all the classes so that you understand what papers you are going to listen to. All right. Please make sure while going out you are marking your attendance. Same thing will apply for post-lunch sessions also. While you enter the class, you'll mark the attendance. While you leave the class, you'll mark the attendance. Just one small request, do not crowd the attendance desk. Go in small numbers. It's okay if